a 19-year-old died after being run over by heavy construction equipment. Witnesses saw Macario trip and fall in front of the skid steer, a heavy construction equipment often used for digging.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's get to Boss Watch. Boss Watch is a segment that we do every week where we take a look at what bosses are up to, particularly, but not exclusively, in the southern United States, how they are endangering workers, breaking the law, and such. We have a we have a report from AL.com from Patrick Darrington. He's reporting on a jury awarding a $10 million verdict to a woman who was severely injured while she was a teenager working at a Jefferson County business in 2019. The jury settled in favor of Destiny Longs, who was 17 at the time the injury occurred. According to the lawsuit, which was filed on her behalf by her mother, Denisha Longs, the teen was working at a facility owned and operated by co-defendants Comfort Systems USA and H&M Mechanical Incorporated. Both companies conduct business and commercial heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. Longs was employed through In Time Staffing LLC, which was also named as a co-defendant. These staffing agencies are terrible, terrible, terrible entities. On July 8th, 2019, Longs was instructed by a supervisor, Roy Lewis, to work on a coil line machine, which is designed to fabricate ductwork. The lawsuit alleges that Longs was instructed to work on the dangerous machine without proper protective equipment, in violation of Alabama child labor laws. While working on the machine, minor plaintiff Destiny Longs' arms were caused to be pulled into the rollers and to wrap around. Her arms were wrapped around the machinery, pinning her into the machine and causing her immediate injury and intense, prolonged pain, the complaint reads. Minor plaintiff Destiny Longs was not freed from the machinery until Birmingham Fire and Rescue arrived and were able to cut and disassemble the machine. As part of the lawsuit, Longs sought to have the defendants pay her workers' compensation benefits and penalties for her injuries under the Alabama Workers' Compensation Act. The jury made the determination to award Longs $10 million in compensatory damages on April 11th. You can read the full story on AL.com. Love to see that. You do not often see such big payouts for worker injuries, so really happy for those folks. Like I've been saying so far under the Trump administration, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration is not being as public with its investigations. Last week, they did conclude a few investigations, but those were begun under the Biden administration. Even so, workers are still dying on the job, obviously. Typically, 100 workers every week in the United States. So even though OSHA is even more hamstrung than before, there is sometimes a small news story whenever somebody dies at work, because it is such a terrible thing to happen in a community. On the Confined Space newsletter set up by Jordan Barra, a former OSHA official, they compile as many news stories on worker deaths as they can find every week. In addition to this newsletter, the Weekly Toll, they regularly host commentary and analysis pieces about labor and workplace safety. This week, they found 37 stories on worker deaths, including 20 from the South. A few lowlights: in Homewood, Alabama, a landscape worker was killed when his riding lawnmower flipped on top of him in a median off Interstate 65. The accident occurred in the grass median between I-65 northbound and the Oxmoor Road exit. Homewood police said the victim, whose identity has not been released, worked for a private landscaping crew that was hired by the city of Homewood to clean up the area. The portion that was being cut was on the state right-of-way. Witnesses told the police the victim was attempting to drive the lawnmower up the embankment when it overturned. Homewood fire medics pronounced him dead at the scene. In Huntington, Tennessee, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency reports that a lineman with the Carroll County Electric Department died while working as strong storms hit the area. Our hearts are with the family and friends of Chance Carlton, who lost his life while working during the recent storms, the agency said. Carroll County Mayor Joseph Butler said he was heartbroken about the lineman's death. We thank the Tennessee Valley Authority, the local power companies, and line workers across the state for their continued work to keep power on for Tennesseans. In Port St. Lucie, Florida, a 19-year-old died after being run over by heavy construction equipment. The Port St. Lucie Police Department said that on Tuesday, a large palm tree was being delivered and installed in a yard. According to officials, the palm tree was attached to the skid steer's forks, and Elias Lopez Macareo of Palm City was walking alongside it as the machine was moving. They said that witnesses saw Macario, trip and fall in front of the skid steer, a heavy construction equipment often used for digging. The operator, who was unaware of the incident, accidentally ran over him. In Union Busters, this segment of Boss Watch Union Busters, covering national updates, is sponsored by Labor Lab. Labor Lab is an employer watchdog organization. They are committed to safeguarding the right to organize through unions, collective bargaining, and mutual aid. They do this by coming through reports that Union Busters are required to file with the Department of Labor. Here are the new filings from this week. Volkswagen in Virginia hired Road Warrior Productions for $3,800 a day. Workers lost the union election 62 to 81. And the Union Busters filed their filings after the election. So workers did not know who was talking to them or how much they were being paid. GE Renewable Energy in New York hired Jose Agras for $187 an hour. Sutter Amador Hospital in California hired Healthcare Labor Solutions. Workers lost the union election 61 to 100. This union buster also filed after the election. In 2024, Healthcare Labor Solutions made $3.2 million from employers and paid subcontractors $1.8 million. Dagcor Aluminum in Kentucky hired National Labor Relations advocates for $3,000 a day and $375 an hour off-site. Workers lost the union election 30 to 59. The union busters filed after the election. Flowers Baking Company of Oxford in Pennsylvania hired Logic Labor Relations for $375 an hour. Sherwin-Williams in Ohio hired Labor Information Services for $400 a day. Despite that, workers still won the union election 40 to 32. The union busters filed after the election was over. Labor Information Services states that many of their consultants are former union organizers and speak multiple languages, including Spanish, Tagalog, French, Portuguese, Vietnamese, and Chinese dialects. In addition, the following filings were amended. Alfred Lacey amended his filing to change the employer name from Amazon to a specific Amazon location, Amazon DDE9.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
We had a couple of comments that I want to react to from our Boss Watch segment. Pinkerbell saying that's horrifying. Matt, holy crap. Benjo says way too young for this to happen to these people. Insanity. And Pinkerbell says the thought of people spending their last moments on this earth making money for corporations that will replace them before they're even cold is radicalizing AF. Before you even consider the accidents and injuries. And yeah, that's really exactly the point of the Boss Watch segment, right? Because it is just so crazy, because when you realize how much this happens and how preventable it is. I mean, one of the leading causes of death, of workplace deaths, are falls. We know how to prevent falls. It's by we know how to prevent falls that result in death and injury. It's by wearing fall protection. Another one of the leading causes is trench collapses. I mean, there are very strict, very, well-known regulations around trenches and working at heights. And just to save a few bucks, corporations don't do them. And literally 100 people every day are killed on the job. 6,000 people suffer every single week from injury and illness on the job, and thousands die from occupational injuries every week. I mean, it is just a ridiculous amount of death and sickness that happens at work. And so, Boss Watch, we want to try to highlight some of that, and also recognize, help people recognize that, unfortunately, the apparatus of the state is not powerful enough to protect you by and large, especially now as the Trump administration is taking a chainsaw to all of the worker protection agencies. The thing that is going to protect you is you and your coworkers organizing, getting a union contract with a worker safety committee so you don't have to rely on OSHA or the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor, stuff like that. So, really important segment.
Yeah, and just to add a fine point to that, it would take the OSHA, the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, 185 years to inspect every workplace just once. And Congress only allows the agency to spend less than $4 protecting each worker it's responsible for. So absolutely, we know for a fact that union workplaces are safer. And it makes sense because when workers have a voice on the job, they're able to resolve safety issues, prevent safety issues, increase training, all the sorts of things that make for safer workplaces. And want to note that April 28th is Workers' Memorial Day. So if you're not familiar with that, that is a good day to, reflect and just remember all the lives who are lost at work, the preventable lives that are lost and harmed, because that is an ongoing, silent tragedy in this country, are the people who are losing their lives and their limbs and their health at work or because of work. And so April 28th is Workers' Memorial Day. AFL-CIO encourages unions, labor councils, state federations, other bodies to do something, around that day, to organize around that day, to, if nothing else, just share these stories and have conversations with people and let people know what's going on. I know I've written an article that I'm hoping to get out on Workers' Memorial Day, for the general public, just because I think a lot of times we don't hear about these issues. And unless it's, especially if you don't work in a workplace that is considered dangerous, quote unquote, right? Like if you're in a more white collar professional environment, and you've never experienced some of the more dangerous workplaces, you may not be aware. That said, even in office environments, there are all sorts of hazards that you deal with. I just recently had a conversation with someone who was talking about mold and how mold contamination was just having such a detrimental effect on a workplace and on workers in the workplace. And this was, a white collar environment, right? So, don't think that you're immune to these issues as well. Workplace safety is important for everyone. And like you said, it's workers coming together, building unions. That's how we can try to keep each other safe.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.